So hello everyone, this is the Sports Show podcast, and today we're joined with Chris Kerr. How are you, mate?
All good. Thank you for having me.
Yep, no worries. So before we just get into the Gaelic, I'll just ask a wee question here. If you could have a dinner party with three people, who would they be?
Um, Liam Gallagher. Definitely Liam Gallagher. I'd probably have to say, before I get killed, my wife Maria, and probably just bring Sean Burke for the crack too. Like he's always lively, and probably be entertaining between him and Liam. So probably something like that.
Brilliant. So then we'll just get straight into the Gaelic then. So
Okay.
what got you into it growing up?
Probably. Well, my neighbour, one of my closest neighbours at my home house, Jackie Webb, lived 2 doors up from me. His son John was in the round maybe a year or so, 2 years older than me. And back then, it's only mad when you're having these conversations now. Like child protection was out the window. Like buses used to go around the street just picking you up. Like so, you were like maybe six, just bouncing on the back of some minibus and getting whisked away on a Saturday morning up till St Pat's home in the Glen Road, and then or LaSalle junior school on the gravel pits. Like so, it just really went from there. I mean, there was loads of ones on our street. Maybe a lot of them were older than me. Went, and then I think by the end of it all, I was the only one still playing past minor. So I just went from there. Just enjoyed it. Like.
Yeah, and then as a kid as well, can you ever remember like any standout players in your team or anyone who's achieved a lot since then?
My team growing up, again, probably out of my own, probably me, like full age group. I was probably the only one that really continued on. Suppose the likes of CJ would have played in our team, was a really special talent from no age. And it's only now when you watch juveniles that you realise how special he was at that age. You just took it for granted that he was scoring points and goals for fun. And yeah, Connor was probably the standout juvenile. Like.
Yeah, brilliant. So what, like, as a kid playing Gaelic, what would have made you happiest? What would you say was your biggest achievement?
As a kid, was definitely not doing goals. With a passion. I suppose I was really tall from no age. I'm 6'4" now. But from no age, I was always big, tall, gangly kid. Like started off out the pitch, played everywhere. I think red half back, centre half forward for a while, and then went into goals. So in a weird way, like anywhere but doing goals would have made me happy. Remember actually getting home in a state, my man and dad crying, saying they were only put me in nets because it was rubbish. Now it probably was true, but little did I know I would end up loving the position. Like so, it funny way of swinging about.
Class. So we'll just move on to whenever you were growing up as well. Did you ever play soccer or anything, or any other sports?
Yeah, mate. I tried a good lot of things. I think from no age, just was at karate. Played football or soccer, hurling, Gaelic, flourish and goals. Even tried Irish dancing. But was decent at it, I think. Well, I've convinced myself anyway. But yeah, no, I enjoyed trying the different sports. Probably wish I had it. Like it's only now when you look back, you wish you had tried things like rugby or even boxing or whatever it may be, just any sport. Like just now, you just love any of the sports. But yeah, I loved what I played the football quite a bit, mostly in the Gaelic off season.
Yep. So,
but got it. Like.
Yeah. What made you stick then with Gaelic then?
So probably when I got to maybe like say third year, fourth year in school, it's probably I was playing Gaelic soccer, hurling for a cross between the school, maybe county squads, soccer clubs, and then just probably then I give hurling up first because I was doing goals in Gaelic and soccer, and I was playing like midfield or full forward in hurling or wing forward, and I just enjoyed not chasing people, to be honest. Though that's really lazy, like, but I did enjoy not chasing people. And then as time went on, it was probably you were more involved in Gaelic goals. as much as I do, like, there's part of me wishes I had pursued maybe, a soccer line for even a year or two, just to see how I would have got on, maybe at Irish League or whatever it may be, and to see how I went on. But I just never got the same buzz. I never got the same hit. And then obviously as time went on and the game changed, and you can see even now how important the role is of playing goals in Gaelic, like, and I just enjoyed that, and I enjoyed the pressure of it, like, so that there's probably the big one behind it.
Yep. And just moving into your senior career then, what would you say was your biggest achievement?
Biggest achievement? Probably, like, it's a hard one, mate. It's like, I know the obvious ones are like, obviously, like, was really lucky to be a part of the squads in St. Galls that dominated.
Yep.
And I think people forget that as well, that St. Galls really did dominate. There's talk that there was 2 or 3 teams, like, but I only ever remember the one, and a chasing pack at a stage, like. So I think just breaking in that squad and being able to train with boys you looked up to in school, looked up to off the pitch, obviously, I probably don't do it now, like, because I've got to know them personally, but like Kieran and Kevin McGordy, seeing them at, a couple of years older, Terry O'Neill, went to LaSalle as well. I remember thinking, Terry was an idol of mine growing up, breaking in that team, and then obviously the position that I was in, it took a bit of time. I was county minor, county under 21, but then at club level, we had Ronan Gallagher, who was the Fermanagh #1, and Paddy Murray, who was last year's senior manager, was in with the Antrim squad. So, like, there was 3 probably county goalkeepers there, and not to forget Kieran O'Connor as well, who was a brilliant goalkeeper for the club too. Like, so I think breaking in them teams, obviously the All Ireland's a big one, being part of that panel. It was surreal, obviously, and we probably, not that we took it for granted, but we probably thought we would get back. We never did. But probably in a roundabout answer, I know that there's a roundabout sort of way. Probably winning the 8 in a row titles, because for so long, obviously, St. John's held out the record of 7 in a row. I saved the penalty in the 7 in a row final win. It was a big moment. It was the same year my dad had passed away too, so even on a personal note, that was massive. And then just to go one more than what that St. John's team did in the 70s was brilliant.
Yep. And then you obviously played for Antrim then, goalkeeper for a load of years. What was it like, firstly, getting selected into the Antrim senior squad?
Well, it's like all you ever dreamt of growing up. Me anyway, like going to casement matches as a kid, albeit I always thought I would have been an outfielder. But I think just it was surreal, funny. Like, the first time I was under 21, and at that time Jody Gormley was the manager, and John Finucane and Sean McGreevy were the 2 keepers. But that particular year, both of them kept picking up injuries, like, separately, and I was the sort of, I suppose you would say, next in line, with being under 21. So I was part of the panel that year. But I remember Jody Gormley ringing me and saying, "Look, I want you to be part of the panel." I thought it was a wind up. I actually thought it was Kevin McGordy, and kept hanging the phone up, going, "Jody or Kevin, go away," like, and hanging up. And then they eventually left me a voicemail saying, just laughing down the phone, or laughing, just saying, "Look, Chris, I know what lads are like, playing pranks, but I would like you to be part of the panel. Would you come to training and all?" Like, so it was probably just, it was unreal. Like, it was a big buzz. And then probably in the first couple of years, it was just like, probably had in my head I was never going to play. Although that first year, I was sub keeper for the championship match against Derry in 2007 in Casement, and then probably from 2010 onwards is where I really wanted to put my stamp on it and wanted to play, like, obviously, and yeah, enjoyed every minute of it.
Yeah, and as I just mentioned, they're obviously playing for Antrim for 11 years. It was. You must have some funny stories then with the team.
Like, probably not for. I probably need a solicitor here. This so I don't incriminate anyone. But there were some brilliant ones. Like, probably one of the best was John Finucane getting his shoes stolen by an Antrim board member, and it was a monsoon. match shouldn't have been played in a skilling, and this boy lifted John's shoes and wore them along the sideline, and then John had played the match and handed them back to John after the match, and he had to wear them home in the bus, like, and just like, is this actually happening here? Like, different, probably funny ones that aren't so funny, like, but like wearing the wrong jerseys with the wrong sponsors on them, and all that, like. But we had some brilliant days too, like, you know, a lot of funny stories, and at times it wasn't great in terms of professionalism, but as years went on, it got better. Different managers come in, made sure it was that way, and then we got some big scalps along the way too, like.
Yeah, and then now we'll just move on to your mental health campaign. What made you start it, for those who don't really know what happened?
So as mentioned earlier, so my dad had passed away in 2013. He had cancer, so I was playing Antrim at the time, and it was probably, I never knew any. Well, was never really personally affected by anyone that had cancer, so I didn't really know until it comes to you. You never really know how to deal with it, or if there is a way to deal with. And he passed away in February 13. So I was in the middle of playing and training. Threw myself back into playing and training like a week later, just to try and get on with it, and probably never dealt with it properly. And I sort of just let it, nearly like a shortened version of it, just let it escalate this stage where I was probably feeling suicidal. It was affecting my mental health day to day. Wasn't in a good place, and then eventually reached out to the GPA, the Gaelic Players Association. They have a confidential helpline, and they got me in touch with like a counsellor. Then went to CBT counselling, and from there, really, you know, it took a couple of years, maybe 2-3 years, to get myself sort of in a good place. And then being like, I live in Armagh now, but I'm a proud Westie, like, and always will be, like. And I suppose just as a male in West Belfast, played soccer a lot for over a few years, like for Newington and North Belfast, and I suppose just you were always hearing and reading about suicides in young men, in both areas, and I was just like, if I can share this and someone can, going through something similar, can not go or let it escalate to, you know, breaking point, or do something silly to themselves, that they could use it as a way of reaching out and getting help, then that's all I wanted to do. If it helped one person along the way, then brilliant. And I suppose that's why I just constantly share the stuff. You never know who's, maybe I came across a helpline by scrolling through Twitter. So if something resonated with someone, that they were like, that's a good boot up the arse, they're going to get help, or, you know, if he can do it, why can't I? And especially men, and especially Irish men, have a problem with speaking about feelings, or opening up, like, and just trying to normalize the conversation, really.
Yeah, and obviously in West Belfast as well, there's been too many suicides going about as well. How big do you think it is for people to open up and speak about their feelings?
Yeah, it's like, I suppose, like, even like this morning there, I was listening to Colin Kilpatrick, the Tyrone footballer, speaking about his addiction with gambling. And I suppose when you are going to do it, if you are going to go public with it, there's always that something in the back of your head, thinking, what's people really going to think, or what's, like, the people closest to me going to think. That was the one for me, like, obviously wife Maria, she wasn't my wife at the time, close mates, teammates, your family, what they were going to think. And I think, like, out of everything I've done, I think I've got 2 negative comments, you know, one on Twitter, one playing, about it. And, you know, in the grand scheme of things, if you can take those sort of comments to help X amount of people, then I would do it again, no bother. Like, not everyone's ready to speak, or, you know, go public with everything. And it wasn't an easy decision. I probably argued with myself for a couple of years over it, like, just will I do it or will I not? And just think that trying to normalize the conversation is the big thing, you know, whether it's in schools or clubs or changing rooms. And I think once from I done that, no, obviously Connor would know me well enough that, you know, I was taking great pride in Daphne being the funniest person in the changing room, like, and the loudest. And you never know what people are going through in the change room of 30-40 lads. So I was probably a bit more aware of people around me, you know, making sure that it was, if it not in the one night, but you were going around people saying, well, what's the crack, and making an effort with young lads coming into the team, and you know, with the different pressures that young people face, especially these days. Didn't have to be grief or whatever. It just could be falling out with girlfriends or whatever it may be, or relationship breakdowns, finance worries, all that stuff. So I always just think it's important just to be aware of just your environment and have a look out for your mates. Like.
Yeah, and then obviously with you overcoming your mental health issues and stuff, is that why you is that why you've started your mental health campaign and stuff, just to sort of promote it around and to get the word out?
Yeah, well, I think even in GA circles too, just to sort of try and normalise it, because you play a sport where it's like, you know, you have to be hard as nails and sail into everything and anything and show no weakness and this, that, and the other. And I think from the last sort of 4 or 5 years from I have been doing it, I wanted to make sure I was firstly in a good place myself, that I could do it, because I didn't want to do it and then, you know, being up and down or all over the place. I had to make sure I was right first before I could even try and entertain the thought of helping others. Like, so I think just trying to normalize it for, you know, GA community sport in particular, it was not targeted, but for, just as an example, the young men, that you can, it's a sign of weakness to feel low or, you know, cry or reach out for help. Like, you know, if anything, it shows shows balls that you want to do something about it, that you know, it's a sign of strength more than a sign of weakness. And that's probably why I do it, like, just to normalize the conversation. And that's why I created the wee Instagram page, just Head Health Matters, because for 30 plus years, all that mattered to me was physical health. But it just shows how important, looking after your own mental health is, as well.
Yep. So just before we go, I'll just ask a few different questions. So first
Okay.
of all, who would be your idol growing up?
Probably in a sporting context, probably Peter Schmeichel. Always loved his, you know, the way he threw himself about and the big starfish saves and stuff. Like, so I enjoyed him. Probably in GA terms, didn't have to look far within the club. Like, you know, obviously, as I mentioned them earlier, Sean Kelly, Terry O'Neill, Kieran McGordy, Colin Brady, boys that sort of calibre. We're always good lads to look up to.
Yep. Where would be your most ideal place to play? What stadium and stuff?
Oh, love to play at Celtic Park, like, obviously. But probably it'd be good to play Casement again one last time.
Yep.
Up and get it sorted and get it back on track.
Yeah, and lastly, who would be the most exciting player at the moment in GAA?
I'll try and play this one down. I'll not name myself, like, and I'll go with. It's hard not to mention David Clifford. Like, say, living in Armagh, I went over to the match the other week, and he only came on in the second half, like, and he's just electric. Everything he does, like, is just unbelievable. Like, and just he's going to get better and better. It's mad that he's only 23, and some of the stats and how he plays the game. And yeah, I would say it's the big man from Kerry. Like, he's lethal.
Yeah, so I think that's us. If there's anything else you want to say?
No, just thanks very much. And yeah, if there is anyone struggling with anything, you know, mental health stuff, even injuries, I come back from 2 cruciate injuries as well there. That they can just drop me a message anytime. I'm not a counsellor or anything, but I've had real life experiences that might be able to point you in the right direction if you are getting attacked.
Yep. So I think that's us then. Thanks very much for coming on, Chris. I really appreciate it. Sweet.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Thank you. See you later.
See you later, man. Thank you.
Bye.